Okay, it's 6:30, so I think we'll call the meeting to order. First, we'll stand, I think we all know the public participation rules. We have public comment on regular agenda items at the beginning, and then public comment on non-agenda items at the end. But welcome back, everybody. It's exciting to have the first meeting of our academic year, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I don't see any yellow forms, so do we have any public comment on agenda items? Okay. Okay, the forms are out if there's anyone that wants to make comment at the end. Board, we've all had the chance to review the consent agenda. Is there any items that anyone wants to pull out? Okay, hearing none, it looks like you've all had a chance to review it. Is there anyone that would like to make a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Bruce.
Second?
Thank you, Sherry. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Great. Motion passes.
Awesome. Would you mind if we introduce, I think we've got some teachers here too.
Okay, that would be great. We have some new personnel here for introduction.
Yeah, thank you. Since the last board meeting, we hired quite a few new teachers to the district. You might see that in your packet. So very excited for the new staff that have come to the district. August, right before school, always seems to be that way. Just a couple of the folks that weren't able to make it tonight. We had a couple hires at the middle school. Jonathan Hopp is our new 8th grade social studies teacher. Comes to us from Galesburg, Augusta. Heather LeBond, a high school math teacher, comes to us from Lawrence. We also have Kelly Hungerford. That name might sound familiar. She's took a year away from the district and elected to return and loved it here so much, and so wanted to come back. And we had an open 2nd grade position, so we're very thankful to be able to get Kelly back into the district. We also had the opportunity to hire Blair Plunkett. Her name that she was here previously is Blair Ignelzi. Blair, it was kind of fun because I got to offer Blair the position on, I believe it was a Wednesday or Thursday, and then she was getting married on that Saturday. So that entire week was very exciting for her. Blair served in the district as a paraprofessional at the early elementary school for really since the start of COVID. Had her teaching, or was working towards her teaching certificate as part of kind of the Teachers of Tomorrow program, bringing new teachers into the field. And so we're very lucky to have Blair in that capacity. So a great new avenue to bring new teachers into the district. A couple of folks that are here today. Stephanie Klemek. Yep, she is a young 5s teacher. And several years, I want to say you said 14 as a preschool lead teacher here in the Kalamazoo area, and very fortunate to have her here at our Young 5s building. So welcome, Stephanie. Yeah. I'd also like to welcome Debbie Dugan. Debbie is a 7th grade science teacher. You might know Debbie. Debbie's been a paraprofessional here in the district. Again, has teaching certification. We're very excited to be able to grow people internally and welcome them to the classroom. So welcome. Also here tonight with the middle school is Christine Walmsley. Christine is a guidance counselor, filling in after the retirement of Kristen Kay. And so Christine has jumped right in, comes to us from Galesburg, Augusta. There's a little bit of a theme sometimes there. And so, yeah, we're very fortunate to have Christine as part of our middle school team as well. And then our last staff member is Allison Jackson. Allison comes to us from South Haven, several years of teaching experience. She is our new early elementary school art teacher. So we want to welcome Allison here to the district.
Thank you. We welcome all of you, and those that couldn't make it, we welcome you as well. So now on to presentations and reports. Does anyone have anything for school board report? Anything that they wanted to mention? Okay, well, we'll just move on to the facility.
Sherry
Oh,
Sherry had something. I
did
think.
you have something, Sherry?
Well, I hit the wrong one. Okay. I don't know if this is the right time, but for the MASB meeting, Vicki and I will be there for the delegation meeting if you need that Thursday night, so I wasn't sure. Because we're supposed to have representation. Usually somebody signs up for it, and we're planning on getting there in time for it, so I didn't know.
Yeah, we're supposed to have two, right? So if you're both going to be there, that's great.
Okay.
I would just add, it's not too late. If you'd like to register to attend that, just let Leslie or I know, and we can get you signed up for that conference. It's coming up quick.
Okay, and then the next we're on the facilities update from Brian Cornish. Thank you, Brian.
And he's making his way to the podium. The board should find in their printed packet or online if you're logged in, just some general notes. I will preface this by saying it does not capture nearly the vast magnitude of items that his team's accomplished, so I think he's going to fill some of that in. But welcome, Brian. Thanks for being here this evening.
Thanks to the board for having me tonight. Busy summer here at Mattawan. A lot of the things we accomplished, of course, supply chain issues, lots of phone calls, where's stuff at. So my great team that I have and great leadership here, so appreciate everybody. Some of the things are a battle. You know, Marika, you and I, we worked on the middle school, the media center, so appreciate everything you helped out on your end with that. So obviously team effort, a lot of things pulled together at the end. We're still waiting on a few items, but I'll get right into it. So I kind of broke everything down by building. Some of these are happen at all the district buildings, but ECEC, so we finished construction and the updates on the new classrooms that opened this year. We came down to the wire on some of the items there. You know, we're waiting on doors and inspections and so on and so forth, but everything kind of pulled together at the end. Right now, we're just working through some punch list items with the contractor. Hopefully, we'll have those wrapped up in the next couple weeks here. I don't know if you've noticed the district, when you walk out the doors here, the big blue numbers now, so that's part of our safety. So every entrance exit way has a number plate on it. So it's visible from the outside and also the inside. So that basically district-wide will coincide with we're redoing all of our building maps. So I'm working with a company out of Rockford right now, Michigan, and they're redoing all of our building maps, updating basically classroom numbers. We found some discrepancies with some numbers and stuff, so on and so forth. So basically those new maps will be given to, you know, first responders, you know, sheriff's department, fire, so that if we have a problem, those exits, entrance are numbered so that they're visible and they can be seen. So we should have that wrapped up here in the next couple weeks. Also a part of that on the building maps, we've added in AED locations, fire extinguisher locations, There'll be some emergency evacuation routes. So basically, yeah, working through that, and so we're getting close. Got, like I said, a couple more weeks, and hopefully those will all be wrapped up. One of the other things here in the ECEC was a center divider curtain for the gym, because it's a multi-purpose room, so we have kids eating lunch in there, plus on rain days, we also had kids in there playing in the gym. So trying to keep some sort of a division between those two, you know, so we don't have, you know, basketballs and stuff going over into the lunch tables. So that, obviously, supply chain issue was supposed to have been here back around the 1st of August. Now it's the middle of October. So, but it is still on its way. So that was just one of the things that kind of got delayed this summer. The early L. So all the new playground equipment that we talked about in the board meeting, I think it was probably back in May, all that equipment has been ordered. Right now, we are looking at a possible start to install around spring break time, next spring. So things haven't choked that playground industry up too bad yet. So projections are right now that we'll start that in spring break, maybe have a few things to finish up next summer. I just got a call today. There was, as part of that project, there was a new climbing wall for the gym, and that actually is being shipped out tomorrow. So we should have that by the end of the week. So that was all part of that project, and that will be installed here within the next couple weeks in the early L gym. District-wide, I'm going to kind of loop all this in. So basically, district-wide, all of our air filters, air handlers, everything has been serviced this summer. Classroom air filters, our main air handler, air filters have been serviced, belts. All the equipment's been greased, serviced. We've been over, obviously, the high school and the middle school being our oldest buildings. Those are usually our biggest, where we find a lot of issues, basically. So we've been through all the exhaust fans at the middle school, high school. We've serviced them all. Everything's up and running, 100%. And, you know, that was a huge accomplishment, you know, with my team and working with contractors on that. And so very proud of that. And so now we kind of have a system now. We have a service intervals on all our equipment. You know, I'm a high believer in, you know, protect what you have. You know, we take ownership in it. And and that goes along with our boilers. Same thing. All of the boilers district-wide were tuned up this summer. And, you know, that's huge. We get some rebate money back from consumers on that. And, you know, our boiler loops are tested. You know, we test all those, make sure our chemicals are right. And, you know, it protects our boilers and our valves and everything else that we have as part of our building management systems.
Brian, what's the schedule on air filters? Are you doing them twice a year, 3 times, what?
We're doing 3 times a year on air filters right now.
Okay.
And so we just did them here a couple weeks ago, so we're gonna, Christmas, usually we do Christmas break, we do spring break, and then again in the summer.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's all kind of in line as part of our maintenance program. All basketball hoops district-wide have all been inspected. We had to do some updates at the middle school. Any hoop that's suspended over bleachers, we have to have safety catches to them. So the middle school was lacking a couple over the bleachers, so we did update all those. And everything as far as the basketball hoops, everything inspected, everything was good. Few repairs here and there. Bleachers, same thing, all the bleachers, indoor, outdoor, have been inspected. Basically, they look for any, you know, cracks, obviously loose bolts and stuff, but they go over every single bolt when they inspect these. Even these here in the ECEC gym, those were all done too. So all that's been inspected. Kind of to go along with that, so at the high school, the bleachers, we added center railings to the aisleways there. There was never any safety bars or hand railing in that gym. And now there's really no such thing as being grandfathered in anymore on a lot of this equipment, especially when it comes to safety. So that actually, we just finished that up a couple weeks ago. So all the center aisles have handrails in them. Again, at the early L, safety entrance, exit numbers on that entire building. And we also ordered locks for the kindergarten wing. When that was built years ago, there was never any locks put on the kindergarten bathrooms. So I'm working with architectural hardware out of Muskegon right now, and all those have been ordered. Again, supply chain issues, door hardware is hard to come by right now, so we're hoping within the next maybe 2 or 3 weeks we might have that equipment so we can get it installed. Also at the later L, I had the privilege to work with quite a few contractors on the outdoor classroom. That was a kind of a huge undertaking that we undertook, earlier in the spring. Appreciated all the help that we had with that, with a lot of the area contractors, and I don't know if anybody's been over there to see it or see the pictures. I mean, it's pretty cool. It's just a neat idea, and so fortunate enough to work with contractors on that and help that evolve, and basically that was put in like 4 days. I mean, pretty remarkable to see the work that was done over there with that. Middle school, obviously middle school, the media center, huge undertaking this summer. The updated HVAC system in there, we had issues with, sounded like a jet airplane in there. We had a lot of turbulence, and so we had some duct work that we had to redo in there to reduce that turbulence coming out of the outlets. And so I got to work with W. Soul on that, and from what I've heard from everybody, it's a world of difference. It's made you can actually have a conversation in there now. So, and along with that, we did new carpet in there, basically gutted out that whole media center, and all new carpet. And the bookcases actually came last week, so those are installed, new paint. We had to update some of the electrical for the new circulation desks in there. And hopes those are going to be here in a couple of weeks. We're still waiting on tables, chairs, and circulation desks at this time. So big project, a lot of people involved with that, Parent Foundation, and everybody working together as a team, and everybody kind of had their own pieces of that puzzle, and we had kids in there working on stocking shelves and books and everything and packing things up, so appreciate all the help on that one. Also at the middle school, a new carpet was installed in 28 classrooms this summer. So we had my custodial team, we basically gutted 28 classrooms in about a day and a half, which I didn't think they'd be able to do it. We kind of set a goal that we needed to have it done in 4 days, and they really blew me away on that one. So, kudos to my team on that, and then getting everything put back together, where we even heard some comments that they didn't even know the furniture had left the room. How did they get everything back? Well, we had a little trick. We took pictures of everything before we tore it apart. So that way, when we were putting things back together, basically a month later, so I said kudos to my team on that. They really stepped up this summer with a lot of these little projects. Again, middle school, all the basketball hoops were inspected, bleachers, exhaust fans, air handlers. We're still working on a few issues over there. We've found some bad actuators and valves over there, so we're working through those right now, and we have parts on order. Try to get those updated, and so that's kind of what we're working on with that. High school. We talked about the center handrails on the bleachers. The other big project this summer was the demolition of the old steam boiler. That was what I consider a pretty big undertaking. Basically, they had the old boiler out and everything cleaned up in 3 days. So that was the old steam boiler, the condensate tank, all the old lines, capping off the gas line, patching the hole in the roof where the old exhaust stack went through. So huge undertaking. I honestly thought it was going to take them a couple weeks, but they actually had the steam boiler out in 1 day. So pretty remarkable. And how they got it through the door, there was like an inch gap on each side when they were pulling it through the doorway there. So pretty remarkable. And I know there's some pictures there. I mean, just you can see it sitting in the parking lot, So pretty neat deal. The So as part of that, we had to demo that old steam boiler because that's where our new pumps and a lot of our mechanical equipment's gonna go for the new chiller that we actually ordered last December. So that chiller right now, obviously it's delay issues right now. It's supposed to have been here around the 1st of June. Now it's a ship date, actually it's next week. It's supposed to be shipped out of Iowa next Wednesday. So we're getting things lined up. Hopefully everything falls together and we got a crane coming in to set it off. So it'll be here and working with Tower Pinkster with the specs on the install for next summer. And just to kind of go over what that will replace. So that will be the main chiller for the building. This will also service the cafeteria, the auditorium, and we have the option to add the office area. And then we're also adding cooling into the gym too. Kind of our problem right now is figuring out how to get to the gym. What's our easiest route? So we had a meeting last week, did a walkthrough, and we think we've come up with some ideas on that. So everything goes okay. We're hoping that we'll have that out to bid, hopefully within the next month. Hopefully we'll leave it out to bid for, maybe a month, 30 days. Hopefully we'll gain a little more interest on the install. And we're still, as of right now, thinking that'll be a go for next summer. The deadline we talked about was August 15th. So in my mind, by August 15th of next year, we need to have the main part of the building capable to be cooled, auditorium, cafeteria, excuse me, everything but the gym. We know the gym's gonna take us a little bit longer to figure out and stuff, so in my mind, as long as the main part of the building, everything else is ready to go, the gym, we can work on, if something happens and it runs over into when kids are back to school. So hopefully everything falls together on that. I know that could all hinge on supply chain stuff right now. Valving, piping, controls. Controls seem to be a problem right now. I've ordered some controls a couple weeks ago and I haven't seen them yet. So I don't know if that's just a trickle effect or what, but, so that's kind of where we're at with that. High school, obviously new, carpet in the office. I don't know if you knew we had a little hiccup last winter, Christmas break. We had that entire office gutted, ready for carpet, and it was the wrong color. So it took us a day and a half to gut the office out, and when I told my team that the carpet was the wrong color, they just kind of looked at me and I said, well, we got to put it back together because we're not going to have it till summer. So so they were really good at getting it tore back apart in June when we were ready to do it again. So all the main office and all the little offices off of that all got new carpet this year, new base trim and molding. Again, at the high school, all the air handlers have been serviced, everything ready to go. This year, the gym floor at the high school, we used a water-based sealer on it this year instead of oil-based. The water base, tends to dry a lot quicker, so we can get kids back in there sooner. Basically, we have to let it sit like 2 weeks before we get traffic on it. And obviously the smell, the water base doesn't have quite the odor that the oil base does. So we got kids in there quicker. We had a quicker turnaround, so it didn't disrupt too many practices this summer. Oh, another little item we did, we updated some of the lighting to LED in the auditorium and the scene shop. There was some old fluorescent fixtures in there that was not real bright in there, and it was, people had trouble seeing, so we actually just finished that up a couple weeks ago. Updated all the lighting in the scene shop. And then we had some elevator repairs that we had to do there this summer. We had a cylinder that was leaking. So that was actually just repaired here a couple weeks ago also. Other updates, just kind of general. So all of our chillers in the district all have service contracts on them now. So, working with Daikin, Carrier, all the brands that we have. So they come out basically twice a year. They go through the chiller, any updates on the software, check sensors, clean coils. The coil cleaning is kind of one of the major things with the cottonwood and everything that flies around here. It plugs the coils up, and then basically the chiller is inefficient. So, that's a kind of a big ticket item that we keep those clean, and a lot of the mini splits and the little mini splits that feed the server rooms to protect Tony's equipment, all of our, computers and stuff. Those are also on a maintenance schedule too now. So basically it's the same as the big chillers. Those smaller units will be serviced in that same time frame on twice a year. I talked a little bit about boiler loops, how we inspect the water and everything. We actually do it. Usually it's every month in the winter once we get things fired up. Like the boiler loop at the high school, we're bleeding the air off that system right now. Once we got the old steam boiler out of there, we had to disconnect a lot of the old water lines that were still fed into that. So now we're actually, about once a week, we're going in there and bleeding the air off that system. So once we start the boilers up, you obviously don't want to get any air in there because you'll get air hammer, the pipes will hammer. So we're eliminating that, and once we get ready to fire the boilers up this year, contractor will come back and work with us on that and make sure we get that done. And then on that same aspect, we did lose a little bit of water when we pulled that out, so we had to slowly fill that system, and we know it's going to need chemical, it's going to need treatment. So that's kind of scheduled. Usually we start that about the middle of October. Usually like to have the boilers ready to go. October 15th is kind of a date that's in my mind, so that's kind of what we stick with. Established a new turf management plan this year for the district and all the athletic fields. I was fortunate enough to work with EnviroSafe out of Grand Rapids. I worked with them at Grand Rapids Public Schools and at Allegan. So they came in and they've actually tailored a turf management program for our district. So as part of that, there's treatments, fertilizers, they treat for moles. So like I said, I was very fortunate to work with them, great people. They've actually come down and trained my staff, because they also do our pest management for us now. So they were down, actually this last spring. So all of my custodial crew has been through training, with them, on how to properly address pest management. So that's huge. Something that will evolve. We'll have trainings now every year with staff that, especially when we hit new staff, so they kind of are aware of what to do and how to treat and stuff. Obviously, big one, new football lights.
Okay, back up just one second with the pest management, because I used to have to be licensed. Do we have to have anybody licensed in it, or one person, or anybody because of that?
Yeah, the only thing that if we spray a herbicide,
Right,
you have to be licensed.
okay.
Yeah, but as far as the treatment, everything they use is,
Okay.
yeah, it's environmentally friendly.
Okay,
Yeah. The herbicide is a whole different ballgame. You do have to be licensed to do that, and there are some guidelines that we have to do with the state.
Right,
So,
right.
as part of EnviroSafe, they actually have there's a spreadsheet actually. Every time they come here and look at something, they treat something, it goes into the spreadsheet, so we have documentation on site. If the state auditor would happen to show up, I have all that. I have all that information. Everything's posted. We post it 3 days on a building before treatment. The only thing that we really don't have to give 3-day notice is any bees. Bees we can treat,
All right.
regardless. We just have to send out notification that we treated for bees.
And then they give you MSDS on anything that they use?
Yes. Yep, I have all that. Yep. Yeah, it's a great system. It's the information, and I actually had, when I was at Grand Rapids, we had a state auditor pop in on us up there. And luckily it was this, Google spreadsheet, you get in there, all the information's there. So, very highly detailed, and, yeah, just a great system, you know, that anybody could get into and look at that, so. Yeah, so new football lights, another big undertaking this summer. Worked with Airport Lighting and Musco on those lights, and Egley Electric helped us out with a lot of the stuff on those lights too. We had to trench, or actually directional bore, a new line under the field, as we had some voltage lost to ground underneath the football field. So we ran all new lines under the field to the other side. Everything is fed off the visitor side. And we also bored a new line out to the scoreboard, because I heard there were some issues with that in the past. So we just wanted to cover ourselves while they were here with that machine. And so we did get all that done, and we got the lights up. And yeah, that was a huge undertaking. Randy, like 4 days before the first game, it was tight.
I think I blacked out.
Yeah, yeah,
You guys did great on that.
yeah.
What was interesting, I came out, I drove through here the Saturday night, I think, after they were installed, and it was foggy, little foggy, light fog out that night. And the light I was impressed, because I work in the booth all the time. I was so impressed. The light in the very corner of the end zone was equal to the light in the center of the field.
Yeah.
So they really nailed the aiming
Yeah.
and everything. It looked perfect, even with that light fog. It spread out just perfectly
Yeah.
across the field. And we can see the numbers a lot better now.
I know,
from the
right?
booth.
So yeah, again, a huge undertaking, and a lot of, working with contractors on that and timing, and, they kept delaying us. We were supposed to have the lights at the end of July, and then it turned out, the first week of August, and it kept going, and it's like finally they got shipped out, I think on August 15th, and they got here on the 16th. So, yeah, great guys to work with, and I'm glad that all came together for everybody for the first football game. So, some other updates, obviously, we were talking about inspections, so all of our district playgrounds have been inspected. I'm fortunate enough, I worked with Great Lakes Recreation out of Holland, and they came down and inspected all of our playgrounds for us. Everything's good. And they're actually the company that we're working with on this new playground equipment for the early L. So, what's next? Master site plan development and board approval in 2023. So hopefully that'll be our next step, that we can start looking to the future and things that we want to look to update and, move the district, move us along. And kind of some of the little projects, probably for next summer is kind of what I'm looking at. We have some old tile in the middle school and the high school that we really need to go in there and demo the tile, with all the tiles popping up. We go in and we glue pieces down, and 2 days later we're back there again. So looking at some options with, going in there and demoing that old tile, doing like a polished concrete with an epoxy coating on it. So basically we won't have to touch it for like 10 years. So something that's, user friendly, but also longevity wise, that, obviously less maintenance too. That's kind of our plan is to get things that are hopefully maybe a little less maintenance than tile. Tile is very time consuming. We spend a lot of time this summer stripping, sealing tile, and it takes a crew of about 4 people. And, like I said, very time consuming. So if we can do anything that will, take back some of that time, and we can use that time somewhere else. So, we talked about the chiller for the high school. Back last fall, when we were looking at the chillers for the high school and the middle school, we at that time we kind of backed out of that middle school chiller, because we saw the way the prices were jumping out in our time frame. So we backed out on that one. So that's something that we still don't want to forget about, that we still need to pursue that chiller for the middle school. And I think we're, in our mind, as we replace like for like there at the middle school. We don't try to upsize. We do like for like, if we do decide maybe we want to add cooling to the gym, that we do some DX units on the roof. That would eliminate having to run any chilled water lines or major piping, so, just something on the back burner that, you know, we kinda need to look at, for obviously the, 2024. And also kinda looking at updating our controls at the middle school and the high school. A lot of the controllers in there, we're having issues with them, you know, we're replacing them here and there. We still have some pneumatic controls at the high school. And so, weeding those out. And, undertaking that, you know, we really need to do, and that way we can update our building management system as we do that. Obviously those pneumatic controls, yeah, it's a whole nother animal. And, hopefully we can start eliminating those, updating that building too. 'Cause I know when those systems, old air systems, they fail open. When they fail, those actuators, they fail open. So that way in the winter, if they fail, you still have heat, but it just keeps going. It doesn't stop. So that's the way they're built. So we did find, we had a couple issues with that last winter where we were overheating some areas and we had bad actuators, so. Other than that, that's all I have.
If I could just thank you, Brian, for that. The board may have questions, but I want to just kind of walk down memory lane. Are we coming up on your year anniversary in October? 1 year.
1 year.
And the lion's share of a lot of what he shared tonight really was maybe April coming in to the summer. And I just want to thank you and your team. Just the energy, the expertise that you've brought to this district is next level.
Thank you.
The amount of work that got done, I think from last October into spring could be a whole nother report. Just lots of triaging and maintenance. And the interesting thing about the maintenance department or food service or transportation and technology, it's often behind the scenes, some a little more forward than others, but especially your department, people don't think about these things. I don't often think about these things, and that's a compliment. We often think about it when it breaks.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm getting at is you guys are there faithfully, keeping the district running smoothly, really customer service driven. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Appreciate that.
And I can't think of one time, I told you this, just want to say it publicly, that I've heard anybody in your department complain about having to redo the high school office.
Yeah.
Nope, okay, let's get after it.
Yep.
So I appreciate that. And that doesn't go unnoticed. I've heard that from many people. You're very willing to serve and step up in your team. So
Appreciate that.
I'll stop talking if the board has questions, but I didn't want to forget to do that.
And I'll tag along with that, Brian, with my experience in that field too many years. I understood every word of what you said here, and I know what's involved. That's a lot of work, maintaining it, following up on it. It's endless, and I commend you for that. And yes, pneumatics work great, but yeah, they're getting old.
Yeah. Thanks, Bruce.
Oh, when Tim told me the horror story of the tour, is that what caused did it go on the foot? Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that. I went, oh,
Yeah.
that's what happened.
Yeah.
It was tragic.
Yep. Yep.
I think so many times we see just the surface, right? And there's so much that goes on behind that. So I would do, even though a lot of times we take for granted what we've got and wish we had a little bit more, it's your team that makes it so that it's usable. And thank you for doing that, because it means a lot to the kids, and I know it means a lot to the community.
Thank
It means
you.
a lot to me, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
First day of school, some of the staff was, I heard it a few times, asking beyond curriculum, which they're aware of what went on during the summer. This document is so concise, and I don't understand all of it like Bruce did, but it just looks overwhelming, to get it done. It'd be really a neat thing somehow for, staff to see something like this, because we really don't understand all the behind-the-scenes activity, and it's
Yeah.
tremendous what got done, so thank you so much.
Appreciate that.
I had a question about, I love the detail you put into like the ECEC with the, you know, the mapping and how valuable that is to first responders and for our safety plan. Is that something that we've done with the other buildings in the district to that level of detail, like even with the AEDs and all that?
Yes. Yeah, all district buildings will be the same as the ECEC. So it started with this building first because it was the smallest. So kind of our plan, how we wanted to do it, how we wanted to attack it.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of it obviously is evolving because of school safety.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to make sure that we included everything that we could. And we can add things as we go down the road. We just tried to hit the main points. And, but yeah, so every district building will have a very detailed map.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Thank you. And it was fun to hear updates on the other. I mentioned to my nephew who's in second grade about the new playground equipment. He's like, "When's that coming?" And now I can tell him spring break, but I can soften that a little because I like, is it there yet, buddy? I could soften the delay with the rock climbing wall, which I didn't even know we were putting down the
Yeah.
gym. I had forgotten about that.
Yeah.
So lots of exciting things happening, and it was great to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for Brian or comments? Thanks. So next item is, thanks guys and gals. Have a good night. Next item is fiscal stewardship, which I believe we're tabling until next month. I don't know if Pam or Randy, if you want to comment on that, just to.
Pam may have a couple brief updates, but yes, the financials, the board will receive a double portion at the next meeting, and Pam could allude briefly to this, why, just some technical issues with our software rollover, but, they'll be back next month.
Oh.
But Pam, why don't you go ahead and give your update? Thank
Okay.
you.
For sure, thank you. Yeah, so I've been kind of coming up with a scenario of what this has been like getting on all these new systems. So it's payroll, financial, HR, and our time and attendance. So it's like you're going over a waterfall and then you're like coming back up for air. So that's what we've been doing basically for the last couple of months. Everything is new in those systems and a lot of tweaking. They're very powerful systems, so a lot to learn. Has a lot of capabilities, but there's just so much there that we're just like, what does this one do? You know, it's like sifting through everything, trying to find the right information. So, yes, those will be back on track next month. So I apologize for that, but they are working well. Things are plugging away with the new systems, going, especially with the onboarding. You heard we hired a lot of people, so that all that's new in payroll and trying to figure out with all these people what buttons we're pushing and making sure we're getting the data in right. So, but we're getting through it. Everybody's been working really hard at that. And because obviously job one is getting people paid. That's our main focus first. We do have our audit this month. That's actually being done in the old system, although there were some functions in the new system we had to like run and then shove into the old system. So that's been interesting too. But that work will be done this month. And no real update on state aid yet. We don't get state aid in September. The first installment of the new year is October. And they're still doing some calculations on what we're to receive. I mean, the main amount is not that hard, but all these categoricals, I think they said there was a record number of categoricals in this budget this year. And they already told us that we won't get all of them in October, that some will be delayed. I mean, they give us the money eventually, but November, we might not get some of them till November now. So still a lot to come on that. And then just enrollment's kind of dynamic right now. We're still waiting on the shared time teachers, FTE. We don't have that yet, how that's going to play into our enrollment. But obviously we have count day before the next board meeting. So that'll be a snapshot in time on that. So I think that's really about all I had this time.
Okay, great, thank you. Sounds busy, and but thank you. So on to new business? Oh, wait, skip, sorry, thank you, Andy. Curriculum and instruction, Jay.
All right. Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
your part.
just a couple quick updates. We actually have our first professional development collaborative learning time next week on Tuesday, the 20th. I know that, kind of having a half day on a Tuesday might sound a little strange compared to what we've done in the past. That was something that we wanted to implement, of moving those half days to different days during the week, so that, especially at the elementary, so that student specials activities were not constantly impacted. Because if we put it on a Wednesday every single time and we had 6 during the year, that student would lose out on that same special every time we had a half day. So just, trying to be a little bit more strategic about when we're placing those half days. But our first one is on Tuesday. And again, teachers are going to be engaging in discussion around curriculum and doing some planning for, how we're providing intervention and extension opportunities for kids, especially heading into October, when really a lot of those intervention practices really start to ramp up. We've starting today, actually, we've opened up our panorama window to do some just kind of assessment on social emotional learning opportunities, and just getting a feel for where our students are at with, how they're feeling about school. We also have our star window open at this time, and really why, just kind of sharing is, I know we've had the conversations around what are some of those key performance indicators. I believe that we're scheduling kind of a presentation around curriculum for the October board meeting. And so, we're going to have that data back and be able to bring some of that information to the board and show some previous historical year data as well. So just wanted to share that those things are open right now, kind of to the kickoff of the year, which is pretty typical. Lasts about 3 weeks, and that's just so that we can try to get all of our testing done during that time. And then the last thing I just wanted to share is, we haven't had a board meeting since the kickoff to the school year and our welcome back with staff. And, just wanted to share how exciting and it has been with all of the staff coming back and having the opportunity to engage in our Capturing Kids' Hearts training. I hope I'm not stealing any of Randy's thunder in his soups report. But we received so many positive messages from staff just about how great the 2 days of being able to connect with colleagues and, just not just talk about building relationships with kids, but building relationships with one another, how powerful that was. Just in tours around over those 2 days, I'm just going to use an example, going into the middle school and, watching them, engage in training, and, they're having a dance contest, and just the laughter and enjoyment, all across the board at all of the buildings, was really powerful to see. And, is really just kind of a testament to our staff and just laying that foundation for why the board, approve bringing Capturing Kids' Hearts into our district. And, very thankful for that, because of the power that's going to have down the road. And so we're continuing to work. I know the buildings are all implementing kind of at different levels with their learning and all of the, the opportunities that the program really presented. And then as an administrative team, we're kind of circling back and talking about, what's our long-term sustainability plan and how are we going to continue to, bring, the philosophy to the forefront. So just wanted to share a little bit about that. You may have some anecdotes later.
Oh, that's great, Jay. I love to hear that. So now new business. And the first thing is the annual tax rate request or resolution. Pam, do you have anything on that, or you wanna
Sure.
walk us through it?
Yep, this form is an annual form that we need to do. And it's basically the form that we send to all the municipalities, townships, and counties, so they know how they need to divvy up our funds when they collect taxes. So it's required that we get it in by September 30th, so usually this time of year, we have it prepared and have the board approve it, so we can send it out, and then when tax collections start, they know exactly how to divvy up the money and get it to us this winter. So it's pretty standard. It doesn't change by a whole lot every year, unless you've got something major that you did, like a new bond or whatever, but we already had the 2021 debt we refunded last year was on last year, so that's not new this year. That was already in the mix, so otherwise there's not too much to it. And of course, our 18 mills for operating is on there, so.
Okay, so this needs just a motion to approve? It-
I'll make a motion to approve.
Support.
Thank you, Marika and Mark. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. The next thing is the meal prices. The meal prices resolution? Or the meal prices waiver resolution?
So this is an interesting one that I had not ever seen before, and I'm sure it's just a thing from COVID, that all these strange things that have cropped up over the last couple of years due to COVID. But every year, if you recall, the food service fund, we have to do the PLE, Price Lunch Equity Tool, I think it is. In the spring, we do that to determine if you have to raise prices in your food service fund on meals, because you can't have full pay meals outpacing the federal reimbursement. So they want to make sure, or being way under the federal reimbursement, they want to make sure that that's pretty equitable. So they have you do this tool, and calculations come out and say, yep, you should probably, raise your prices so you're keeping up with the federal reimbursement. So we did that this year. Now, remember, last year meals were free. This year we did that. Mr. Rose, who was here until recently as the director, he did the calculation, and it showed that we should probably raise prices. So he recommended that, and we did that. Well, then this waiver came out, and they kind of reconsidered, probably economic reasons or whatever, and said, well, if you don't really want to raise your prices, you don't have to, and you could even lower them if you want to. But, so schools are like, okay, well, we go through all these steps, and so here we are. I talked with Christina Holler, our new food service director, and we discussed returning the prices to what they were actually in 2021, because we didn't have meal prices last year. So we're going to recommend returning the prices to the 2021 meal price levels and not increasing them as we had planned. The food service fund is doing fine, and it can certainly handle not increasing the prices. We are only doing it to keep up with the federal reimbursement as we were requested to. So that's what we'd like to recommend, and that will help, families with meal prices this year.
Yeah, this is good news for families. I mean, just an example, it's like an elementary lunch is going from $3.20 but back down to $2.85. And all the savings are around, and that adds up.
It
Multiple
does.
kids and multiple meals, so
Yeah, for sure.
I like to see that we're doing this.
Just a question on next year. So when we do the PLE tool next year, are we opening ourselves up to maybe jumping a buck or something to the families? Or that's my only concern, would be a huge price increase going into the next year.
Yeah, we looked at that. and I can't say that it's not gonna be, you know, possible that we'd have to increase next year. I doubt that it would have to be that much, though. I think if we're gonna have to increase, it'll still be a reasonable increase. I don't think it would be a huge gap.
I just didn't want it to, like, you know, essentially be like a 2 or 3 year jump at one time, just to
know.
try to catch up, and I think that would burden
Oh, yeah.
people a lot. So.
Yeah, we did think about that, and it's a little hard to predict what that tool calculation is gonna look like in the spring, but, we're gonna take a gamble that it's not gonna affect it by that much. I think we'll be all right.
Pam, does approving this automatically lock us into a year's time period, or can it be adjusted mid-year if need be?
I think you can adjust rates anytime you want to during the year, if need be. Yep.
Well, I'll move that we, reinstate, or, I forget what this thing's called,
Retract.
I guess we'll do yeah, there it is, retract the previously approved meal prices for 2022, 2023, and, set them back to the 2020, 2021 levels.
I'll support that.
Okay, thank you, Ted and Mark. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. And, next is this overnight trip resolution, request resolution, which you had sent to us over email as well, so we had a chance to review it. Randy, thank you. And it's for the Master Singers and Muse to do their annual Michigan tour, which looks fantastic to me. Is there any questions that came up, board, in reviewing it, or? Seems like everything was filled out pretty thoroughly.
We had briefly talked about down the road, I don't know exactly who would be responsible, but revamping this form a bit and being consistent with it. It's really redundant, and this one is, and which I think some folks can get discouraged having to rewrite the same thing. So I just wondered where we were thinking of that.
Yes, and actually, many internal forms are currently being revamped in conjunction with the new website, so
Great.
I'll talk briefly about that in my update, but
Okay.
this is definitely one on the list, and just another caveat. A lot of these forms that come out of policy are through administrative guidelines. They're very stock forms that Neola provides, so hence the redundancy. So we'll be able to clean those up a little bit without, changing, I guess, the important pieces of what the document was intended for. But we've considerable effort going in doing fillable PDFs on many forms.
So, if there's no,
I'll move to support the overnight trip request.
Second?
thank you, Ted, thank you, Sherry. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. And now on to the mower purchase resolution, which is a replacement for our mower, which needs to be replaced. And, I think we're going with a pre-owned option. I don't know if you have any comment on this, Randy?
Pam, do you want to jump in, or do you want me to
Pam?
take that? Okay, go ahead.
Probably any one of the three of us. Brian actually
And
said,
Brian's here.
Brian said he wanted to.
Apparently
Oh,
Brian is
Brian,
gonna take this
thank
one.
you.
He is moving to the podium right now.
Lost you in the
Haven't heard
paper
me enough
shuffle.
tonight, right?
He's on it.
Okay.
Perfect.
Shut your mic off, Pam.
Should have watched and let him squirm a little bit longer.
I know, right?
Glad he was back there. Tell us
So-
everything we need to know about mowers.
I will. They're not out there. They are not out there. So obviously, the mower that we had here was 22 years old, had over 5,000 hours on it, and it blew up in the football field. So if you notice over in kind of the south west corner, the nice streak where there's no grass, that's where it blew up. So right now we are renting one. from Spartan Distributors out of Grand Rapids. Basically, used unit. It was a privately owned unit, 2008 model, 800 hours on it. Full cab, heat, air conditioning. There are some optional attachments that we could get in the future if we wanted to. Snow blower attachment and a broom attachment that goes with it. I talked to Spartan last week. Obviously, you see the numbers on what a new one costs, and they're telling me 10 to 15 months, maybe, to even get a new one. That's how far out they're looking right now. I looked at Woodland Equipment. They're another, basically a Sourcewell dealer. So Spartan is Sourcewell, and another company that I've been using, Woodland Equipment, they're Sourcewell. So basically, it's like a my deal. You know, we don't have to bid it out because they are actually a pre-approved government bidder. So obviously, looking at other options, that mower is just like our old one, 16-foot cut. The next best unit right now is Exmark has came out with one that's a 12-foot cut, but there's only 5 in the United States right now, and they're all spoken for. So we're kind of down to slim and none at this point. They've actually been letting us rent this unit, so they will actually apply our rental costs to they'll deduct it from this cost that's on the sheet, which was $45,000. I think I agreed it was a $2,000 a month rental with them, so they will deduct that. We've had it for about a month now, so as what's out there right now, there is none. There's just nothing, and for the amount of acreage that we need to mow, 16-foot cut versus a 6-foot zero turn, there's really, it's not apples to apples, obviously. So that's kind of where we are with the mower.
I did see that a couple weeks ago. Tim was, I think he was mowing the softball field. You can't tell the thing isn't new. It really is. It wasn't beat up at all. It was not a commercial beat the heck out of it operation. It really looks practically brand new. It was impressive.
And Spartan, actually, they did all the service intervals on that machine. The guy that bought it from them brand new. So he just traded in on something smaller. I guess he sold a lot of the acreage he had. But, yeah, very clean unit. It was actually, they serviced it and checked it all over before they brought it out. There's a couple little issues we have with it. But, obviously, if we decide to go with the purchase, they will fix those for us.
Yeah, that's really nice that you've had the chance to run it for a while, and it seems to make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Brian, if we do decide to purchase and they do their preventive maintenance review, do they offer any kind of warranty with that?
No
Limited
warranty on a used piece of equipment like that. I mean, it's like our other one. We didn't expect the motor to blow up in it, and we had actually just had that service this winter. They kind of went through some of the hydraulics and stuff. We were having some issues with cylinders. So, yeah, it's kind of an as-is, just like a used car.
At this point, do you feel like we're gonna need the attachments, or does our present snow brush and blower still work pretty well?
Yeah, no, that was an option. I had them throw in there just in case, in the future, maybe yes. But right now, the main focus is the mower. That's really what we need right now.
Well, plus we get brooms for the Bobcats, don't we?
Correct.
So
Yeah, correct.
less wear and tear on the true lawnmower.
Yep.
Okay, do I hear a motion
So moved.
regarding this?
Yeah, I'll move to support the purchase of the used mower, the new to us mower.
I'll
The
second
used
that.
mower, yeah. I'll support the used mower, yeah, 45,000.
Okay. Yes, right. All in,
I thought it was a mystery, so I looked online and no, that was right there. Wow.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Oh, mower it is. That's great. Okay, and now we're on to public comment for non-agenda items. So, seeing none. Oh, and next would be the superintendent's report.
Good evening, Board, again, and want to congratulate and thank the new hires for coming in. I know they skedaddled and have work to do, but it's always exciting hiring new faces and talent. So we wish them the best. Speaking of new hires, we do have a special guest. Well, everybody here is a special guest, but it actually is National Policewoman Day. So Deputy Sean Olney is here today, our new SRO, on National Policewoman Day. So Deputy Sean is at your headquarters is out at the EES and LES. And although you're working in tandem with Cody Anderson, Deputy Anderson, and just appreciate you and want to welcome you here and appreciate your service. And good luck out there with those little shavers running around now. I hear they're just eating you up. They're loving you out there. So, excellent. Thanks for being here this evening. So just a couple other items. Before I forget, and I'll send the board another reminder email, on September 26th, I believe, MASB will have our Region 6 legislative meeting. I think I sent one email out. This is hosted at Van Buren. Boards from all across Van Buren are invited in. And then we have a legislative update and talk about kind of priorities. So they'll kind of poll the group, what are the boards interested in hearing more about, and probably pick another date to meet later in the year. So since being in Van Buren, we've kind of weathered COVID. We haven't had these meetings. Right. I want to say out in Ionia, we had these twice a year. So I'll send a reminder, check your calendar. It's normally an hour and a half, depending on the conversation. And then you can it's kind of fun getting out and meeting other board members and kind of networking and having a good time. So wanted to get that out. I'll send out a reminder though. Couple other items. So strategic plan update. So at this time, we are, or have been since the last meeting, working by department, by building, with our administrative team on actionable items. So just kind of drafting action items here. Kind of similar conversations to what the board's had on action items. So we'll continue that work, and I'll keep the board updated on that. If the board so desires, I want to have kind of some update on the strategic plan at every meeting. Some of them may be very brief, but kind of have that standing agenda item in my mind at my report, or we can pull it out for its own, whatever the board wants to do. But I'm thinking we'll have a little bit more meat on the bone by October's meeting. I don't know if we're going to have them all finished, and I'm kind of looking at Jay and Pam just because there's, a lot of departments, but I think the work's moving ahead there and lots of good conversation. And then at the latest by November, we'd want to have kind of something finalized on all these action items, even though there's a lot of work happening already on these action items. I think some of these are transferring over from the work that was done last year. Questions on the plan, though that? Or we can wait till the end of my comments. Okay, but just wanted to keep the board in the loop there. Brian alluded to in his report some safety items, and I just want to let the board know some of the things that are happening in the county in terms of this safety planning. In addition to our emergency operations plan that we have to review annually, and a lot of the district level work that's happening, there is a countywide safety meeting that meets monthly. And so that is happening every month with superintendents and key first responders and law enforcement at the county level. And then we actually, what I'll call a local level, we started a local level meeting last month, which would be school officials, Brian, myself, Mr. Larners, as his schedule allows us, and on that, Tony Newsmer, our tech director, our SROs, Mattawan PD, Lieutenant Kirk, who is the emergency operations chief from Van Buren ISD, and last meeting we had Sheriff Abbott, and maybe his representative will be coming in the future. But we're also having, in conjunction with the monthly county meeting, what we will call a local monthly meeting. So we're kind of coming back, kind of hinging off county conversations, making sure we're communicating things out with fidelity, that there's good understanding. And then actually that pairs down probably at a cabinet level where Mr. Larner, Ms. Sturmer, myself, Greg Mickelson, who is a dean at the high school, but is kind of our point security person in the district, kind of has a little bit deeper conversation as needed. So just kind of want to make the board aware of, there's lots of layers to the safety conversation that's happening in the district. Just to, if nothing else, to clearly communicate expectations, you know, talk about items that are happening from our SROs and how we can support each other. One other item, believe it or not, you didn't have in your report, the only thing not in your report tonight. We are adding knock boxes, and maybe you talked about this. These are those steel key boxes. If you leave this building here, you'll see one on the doors into the pantry. There's a box. These are first responder box. They have brass keys, key cards. They're pretty much indestructible. Not all of our buildings have those. So that's an example of something that came up at our local level meeting. Okay, we're going to do that. Access for road patrols. Okay, let's talk about that with Mattawan PD and the sheriffs. So all this kind of good conversation is happening communication-wise. So occasionally I'll have some updates there, or maybe in a Friday update, just kind of agenda items we've been talking about or what's kind of going on in the county. That's it. I'll take questions. Sorry, I was scanning my list. But I'm not going to go on and on about capturing kids' hearts. That could be 20 minutes, but it was absolutely amazing. I can't thank the board enough. Just a great, energized start. So Jay kind of captured that well. But questions from the board?
Randy, has there been any movement on the YMCA discussions recently?
Yes, there has. So let me talk about that. So I still sit on that committee, and I'm so glad you brought that up. I was going to send out an email request to the board, but I wanted to have a chance to talk to Ted about it first, just about representation on that committee after Scott stepped down. So we are meeting. In fact, had a chance to connect with many folks on that committee at a YMCA breakfast that happened last week, just unrelated to the Y venture here that's getting discussed. That was kind of the first time in 3 years, and wow, what an event that was, about 300 people. But a lot of folks that sit on that committee, Mark, here out in Mattawan or this Van Buren County area, kind of looking into it, were there. So at this point, the committee has completed a feasibility study. They had hired somebody midway through last year, a third party, to conduct that. I think I brought that general information to the board last year. And positive feasibility. I'm just going to summarize that. There is an interest there. They believe it can be supported. Right now, what's getting talked about are our funding sources. In fact, they're presenting at the village council meeting tonight, or a couple of the members, just to bring the village up to speed. But that's the main discussion right now, just now that they have plans kind of drafted, mocked up. There seems to be an interest in the community. That's kind of come to the surface through the feasibility study. Now it's really getting out there and looking at grant sourcing, private donors, and what are those structures kind of look like, and what seriousness is out there from the funding aspect. So that's kind of where they're at in the process now. You know, one of the things I had thought about is at the next meeting, or maybe in November, if the board would like that, I could probably have Dave Morgan from the Y come out and maybe give an update. It probably is time, and just to ask questions, and it'd be nice to, I don't know if that's ever happened pre-COVID. It was just kind of starting up, but might get a chance to meet Dave Morgan and a couple folks from the committee if you haven't, and just kind of hear from him. I'm seeing everybody pretty much nodding. I'll get an email out, Ted, to you and kind of check calendar and see when you might like to see that. But that's kind of in a nutshell where it's at.
Yeah. Do you feel like the same discussions are still taking place in Paw Paw, or has the committee kind of decided if Mattawan area can fund it, it's in Mattawan?
Well, so, yeah, the feasibility study did look at 3 locations. There was a Paw Paw exit on the Mattawan exit, and then there was a third one, and I apologize, it's escaping me right now. So there definitely was, I think the Mattawan location probably garnered the most interest, but there was interest for all 3. So I think that's, even though the committee hasn't voted officially on anything, there's definitely, I think, a movement toward that location. That's from what I've heard at these meetings, that's where most of the conversation took place location-wise. And then the group has kind of moved on to funding. So I don't sense that that's coming up in conversation anymore. And, you know, I've kind of been there as a representative for the district and that property there that we're still interested, the board's interested in supporting. And just good feedback on that feasibility study. I mean, there's definitely, people find it kind of intriguing and interesting and energizing and kind of thinking about the what ifs and how can that partner and help families and partner with the school, and a lot of kind of good, exciting conversation. And so tonight, I think, was a good step with the village, just kind of bringing that up to that next level of conversation and awareness.
Randy, you can probably correct me where I'm wrong, but for those that haven't been involved in any of these conversations, I'm assuming, Marika, you don't know anything about this, or Vicky, right? So,
I was on it from another standpoint.
or
So
okay,
I'm pretty familiar.
So
Right.
I know Dave, so.
That's right.
I've worked on some
There's a
projects.
parcel of land that
Yeah.
the school district owns, which is north of here, between here and the highway. That was given to us, given to the school district back in the 30s or something, and it was meant to be logged, and you could sell the logs off for money to help the schools. So that was the idea when it was given. What we had proposed, what Robin had been working through, is that would be one of our portions for helping this Y get started, would be to grant them the land, and some of that would help us, because they'd be putting in a pool. We'd have some offset of rental for that pool for swim teams and those types of things that would help us,
Right on.
help us through there and help us not have to spend so much on facilities ourselves, right? So that's why the school system is deeply involved in this, the school district's deeply involved in the YMCA. It's a benefit to the community, and also we have skin in the game because of the land.
Yeah, perfect summary, and I learned something there on the logging piece too, and I didn't realize that it was that long ago the district had acquired that. But just as a visual, it's right across from Charles River, across the street there, and I like to think of it, there's just like pine area, the village sign that kind of is nestled in there. So I think it's about 10 acres. It might be just a shy south of 10 acres. Kind of a rectangle plot that goes back toward the equipment and lawn care, Formula K, back that direction. Just to put a visual out there, that was a cumbersome visual explanation. I apologize. You guys probably all know where it's at. You're like, yeah, we know where it's at. So that's an update. Is that? And I'll keep you posted on that and get an email out and to see on scheduling. But Dave would be more than happy, I think, to come out. And I'm kind of surprised he and I haven't thought about that. We've met with the area superintendents in Van Buren to update them. I think it's time for an update here. So I'll work on that. Other questions for me this evening?
Randy, I do, just on, and I don't.
Chad Yeager's, oh, I'm sorry, Vicki.
No, it's okay,
I couldn't hear you until the very end.
I didn't know how to turn a button on there, sure. Randy had to teach me.
She beat you to
I
it.
know, go ahead, Sherry.
I didn't know if anything was going to be brought up about Chad Yeager's new certification.
Yes, I'm pulling up the post because I don't want to mess the name up.
Pretty amazing.
It-
And
it
I'm
is
glad
an-
we signed him up for a long contract, right?
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up. That I had we're celebrating that last week, and if I could just read a piece of this. So Chad Yeager is our athletic director. He oversees the high school and actually the middle school as well. It's kind of a combined job piece there. So last week received notification that he had been named Certified Master Athletic Administrator by the National Interscholastic Administrators Association. And that's a mouthful, but it really is a representation of coursework, certification, and just professional contributions to the industry. And not an easy accolade to achieve, is my understanding. Takes time, you know, and kind of maturing in the profession. And so when we got word through that, of course we had to get that all over social media. And if you know Chad, he's not a limelight kind of guy. And I told him he didn't have a choice in that. And lots of love on Facebook from folks. But Sherry, thank you so much for reminding me on that. And just another example of just the dedicated staff we have here. The search and quest for excellence in everything we do, and just another great example. And just want to congratulate Chad Yeager, and if the board has anything else to add, we can submit it to public record forever.
Secretary's doing great, but.
She is. She's doing fabulous. I think he's doing fine. I may have heard him talking to Bill, talking to himself, walking down the sidelines at the football game. I had to remind him that Bill isn't here. But so we're kind of tongue in cheek there, kind of having a good laugh about it. But I think they're hanging in there. He's got a good team, but you know, you've got two individuals like Bill and Sue that were here 30 plus 35 years. It's kind of not a question of filling shoes. It's kind of just honestly bringing your own pair and then making it work. So they're gelling over there and keeping things going.
Yeah, well, congratulations to Chad, definitely. And just like homecoming, is that October 7th? Do you have that date offhand, or just think it's a good reminder for all of us?
I'm looking to parents that have
Hope
high
to see the
schoolers
board
here.
there.
That sounds correct.
I think it is.
Yes, it is October
I
7th.
think it is, so hope to see us there.
October 7th,
Any
we've
other
confirmed that.
questions for Randy? Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I should probably know what
offhand.
homecoming
I
is.
was looking.
Oh, that's right.
recently.
I did,
Just-
yeah, go
It was
ahead.
more of a
Just one
statement.
other question was, in terms of the medical partner for the ECEC, as we fitted that out, I know COVID hit and there were difficulties and relationships, so any current status, or we're still kind of in a waiting game?
Yes, so we did, for those of you listening in, there is about 800 or 900 square feet in the ECEC that was kind of reserved for some type of community space. And yes, COVID did hit, and then the grant funding was in question through the state, and then it was back on, and then it was in limbo again, and then where we're at right now is I think the grant money is back on, but there was just some question at the Ascension Borges level in terms of, I think they stepped back to hit the pause button to kind of rethink structure for community wellness and what that's going to look like. So we're actually back in a holding pattern again on that. But I will reach out for an update. You know, that was about midsummer. And I wasn't terribly surprised by that, just with all the changes coming out of COVID in the medical field and changing priorities and, budgets and things just not, I think there was just a lot of uncertainty. And so I think the better part of wisdom was to kind of pause, reflect, take stock. So I will reach out for an update. I haven't heard anything in a few months, but I'll put that on my list and hopefully have some information for the board by this Friday.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Randy?
Thank you, board.
All right. Well, I guess we can look for a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Thank you, Vicky.
Support it.
Thank you, Ted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.